Hey guys, tonight we're peeling back the scratchy, carpeted layers of a world that should have been safe, wholesome, and full of Pizza Hut personal pans, 1990s American public schools. But don't worry, we're not here for lunchroom pizza, Tamagotchis, or a spirited game of Oregon Trail. No, tonight is about something even more buzzworthy, the Ritalin epidemic. That's right. The era when the average elementary schooler had more prescription stimulants than a Wall Street banker at tax time. And since this is our brand new channel, before you settle in, maybe take a second to hit like and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy what you find here. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim those lights. Switch on a fan for a little white noise. Get comfy, and please, secure your trapper keeper. But pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it really felt like to be a kid in the middle of America's Ritalin rush? Did the school nurse keep a pharmacy on her desk? Did teachers really mistake boredom for brain chemistry? What did hyperactive actually mean when your entire class was raised on sugary cereal, fluorescent lighting, and the collective trauma of group recorder lessons? Could you survive a week in a classroom where half the students were dosed and the other half were just restless and deeply misunderstood? How did parents, teachers, and guidance counselors handle the new power of prescription? Did they handle it at all? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1995. Your school bus smells like cheese, your shoelaces are double knotted, and there's a little orange pill with your name on it in the nurse's office. Good luck. It's 7 a.m. The day begins with a jolt, a bowl of hyper, sugary cereal, a dash of Rugrats, and for you, a little orange tablet on the kitchen table. Your mum watches closely, making sure you swallow, because breakfast isn't complete without your daily dose of prescription-grade focus. You blink the sleep out of your eyes as your spoon clangs against a mountain of frosted flakes that might as well be pure glucose and food dye. The box on the table is garishly bright. The cartoon mascot grinning at you with the kind of intensity only a late 20th century serial executive could dream up. The TV is already buzzing, Nickelodeon or maybe Saturday morning cartoons, blaring colors and sound that would short-circuit any adult brain before the first cup of coffee. But you're a kid in the 90s. Your brain is built for chaos, forged in the fires of Saturday morning programming and the lawless anarchy of Pop-Tarts and Capri Sundae. Your mum moves around the kitchen with clinical precision, reading labels, pouring milk, and checking the clock. She slides the orange pill across the table, Ritalin, the unofficial breakfast of a generation. She doesn't say much, just gives you that soft, searching look, as if she's measuring the exact moment your personality will stabilize for the day. You glance at the pill. It sits next to your cereal like an extra marshmallow. If marshmallows had a street value and a potential for appetite suppression, down it goes, chased by a swig of orange juice that burns your throat in the way only not quite real citrus can. You've learned to swallow quickly, no hesitation. There's no debate anymore. Just the sound of the pill bottle rattling, a sound you recognize as easily as the jingle from a cereal commercial. Outside, the world is just waking up. Sunlight slices through plastic blinds, landing on your Power Rangers pajamas. Somewhere, a neighbor's dog is already barking at the mailman. You listen to the comforting, synthetic theme song of Rugrats, wondering if Tommy Pickles would take his Ritalin like a champ or spit it into his diaper. Maybe both. Your dad is in the background, rustling a newspaper and muttering about the weather. He doesn't really get what the pill is for, but he trusts your mom and the pediatrician and maybe even the school more than he trusts his own memory of what mornings were like before every kid had a diagnosis and a pharmaceutical plan. The ritual feels new and ancient at the same time, a modern version of a spoonful of cod liver oil, but with FDA approval and way more paperwork. As you finish your cereal, you feel the morning shift gears. The first hints of Ritalin clarity slide in, subtle at first, a settling of the mind, a smoothing out of the early chaos. There's a kind of humming in your skull, as if someone turned the static down just a notch. Breakfast transforms from a wild, sticky mess into a carefully choreographed sequence. Eat, swallow, rinse, repeat. Your mom nods her approval. You're officially ready for the day. Just as soon as you find your shoes, your homework, and the backpack that somehow managed to escape overnight. It's easy to forget that not every kid on your block has this routine. Some friends have Flintstones, vitamins. Some just skip breakfast altogether. But here, in this kitchen, at this table, the little orange pill is as much a part of childhood as Saturday morning cartoons and the ever-present risk of stepping on a Lego. Shoes on, teeth brushed, hair flattened into submission, you pause by the door, feeling that familiar blend of jitters and focus. You're not sure if you're ready for school, but you are ready. That's enough. You step outside into the 90s daylight, caffeinated, medicated, and already thinking about lunch. Good luck out there. You climb onto the bus, dodging gum, rumors, and the mysterious crusty patch on seat 12. Someone is already bouncing off the walls, literally. The bus driver, a war-weary veteran of the yellow fleet, clutches her steering wheel and eyes the mirror, counting heads and calculating odds. The morning air is heavy with the scent of wet sneakers, faintly sour lunchboxes, and that unmistakable perfume of vinyl seats in early spring. The windows fog with condensation and nervous anticipation. Your shoes squeak against the sticky rubber flooring as you make your way down the narrow aisle, careful not to brush up against the fourth grader who is apparently conducting a personal science experiment with glue and a plastic spoon. Every seat tells a story. The one patched with duct tape is a silent testament to last week's incident. The one by the heater is prime real estate. If you don't mind the possibility of melting your chocolate milk by 8:30, you pass a duo in matching windbreakers, already locked in the morning's first argument about who gets the window. Meanwhile, in the back, a cluster of kids has turned the rear row into a social experiment in noise tolerance. Volume gradually rising with each pothole. Your backpack bumps the knees of a sleep-deprived sixth grader who scowls, then returns to doodling alien abductions in the margins of his spiral notebook. You choose your seat carefully, not too close to the front, reserved for the teacher's pets and notorious tattletales, but not in the chaos of the back either, where future stand-up comedians and amateur pro wrestlers hone their craft. The bus driver, Mrs. Crabtree, her real name, and somehow also her final form, wears sunglasses no matter the weather. She's seen things. Her morning ritual is equal parts attendance and threat assessment. As she peers into her wide rear view, she's not just looking for trouble. She's looking for signs that today, just maybe, the ride will be uneventful. Spoiler, it never is. Someone launches a spitball. Classic. A second grader is deep in a negotiation with her seatmate over Pokemon cards. Stakes raised to include a holographic Charizard and half a pack of Gushers. There's a whispered rumor about a pop quiz in math. Anxiety spreads down the aisle faster than lice through the fourth grade coat closet. As the engine groans to life, Mrs. Crabtree gives her daily warning, delivered with the resigned energy of a woman who knows it will be ignored. Seats on seats, feet on floors. No yelling unless you're on fire. Her tone makes it clear that, given the right circumstances, she would not be entirely surprised if someone burst into flames. You wedge yourself against the cold window, watching the world smear by in streaks of mist and tree branches. Someone behind you is already drumming out an offbeat rhythm, with two pencils and the plastic seat back. An anthem for the perpetually caffeinated, halfway through the route, you realize that the bus is a sociological laboratory for the 90s child. Medicated, unmedicated, hungry, bored, all crammed into a rolling capsule of chaos and questionable upholstery. You see the kid who forgot his pill this morning. Eyes wild, limbs in constant motion, a human popcorn kernel. His best friend, freshly dosed, sits in zen-like stillness, gazing out the window as if contemplating the mysteries of multiplication tables and the meaning of life. A shriek erupts. Someone sat in the wet spot. No one claims responsibility. The rules are clear. If it's wet, ignore it and move on. The bus lurches around a corner, throwing everyone to the right in unison. A kinetic sculpture of backpacks, elbows, and the collective hope that the next stop is yours. You're jostled, jabbed, and serenaded by the distinct sound of a Walkman struggling to play bop over the rattle of the engine. Someone offers you a fruit roll-up in exchange for seeing your homework. You decline, but tuck the offer away for future negotiations. As the school appears on the horizon, Mrs. Crabtree straightens her shoulders, ready for the final gauntlet. You grab your backpack, hoping you haven't lost your lunch, your homework, or your sanity. The doors hiss open. You tumble into the new day, already a survivor of the school bus safari. Homeroom is an experiment in controlled chaos. While the teacher drones through the roll, you notice some kids are glassy-eyed, others are vibrating. There are two types of students here, the dosed and the untamed. You slip into your seat, always third row, 2 seats from the window, where you're close enough to the radiator to be warm, but far enough away that you don't get blamed for the mysterious stain that's been slowly migrating across the floor since November. The room hums with the early morning energy of children who ate cold Pop-Tarts for breakfast and still have the chemical tang of toothpaste lingering on their tongues. Backpacks thud onto the floor, zippers hiss, pencils clatter like tiny wooden swords. Someone's lunchbox emits the unmistakable smell of processed bologna, a scent that will only get stronger as the day goes on. The teacher, Mrs. Nellis, is a veteran. Her calm is legendary, her coffee mug bottomless. She has the look of someone who's seen it all: lice outbreaks, spontaneous science experiments, and the traumatic aftermath of glue sticks in hair. Her voice is soft, yet powerful, rising above the din with the gentle force of a sleep-deprived drill sergeant. She reads the roll call with the steady rhythm of someone reciting ancient incantations. Each name is a spell meant to conjure order, and every here or present is another link in her invisible chain of control. You glance around the room. In the far corner, Joey, who forgot his pill today, is doing interpretive dance with his shoelaces. Meanwhile, Emily, 3 days into her new prescription, sits perfectly still, staring into the middle distance as if auditioning for a role as kid number 4 in an educational film strip about attention spans. Some kids have that soft, tranquilized look. Heads propped on hands, eyes glazed, as if their minds are drifting somewhere between arithmetic and the void. Others are at a near vibrational state, their desks trembling, sneakers tapping a Morse code message to anyone with ears. "Get me out of here." A sharp shh erupts from the teacher. The sound temporarily stills the masses, like a freeze frame in a wildlife documentary. You can almost hear a narrator. Notice how the North American 4th grader responds to auditory cues, startled, momentarily still, but ready to bolt at the slightest provocation. But the silence is short-lived. Someone launches a paper football, expertly folding it mid-roll call. A pencil sharpener hums in the back, one of those ancient crank varieties that sounds like a miniature chainsaw and requires 3 years of upper body strength to operate. The class pet, a guinea pig named Einstein, emerges from his plastic igloo and instantly regrets it, retreating from the shrieking, sugar-fueled landscape, Somewhere in the front, a kid with a perfect attendance record is already color-coding his folders. In the back, two best friends, neither of whom have taken their meds, whisper and giggle at a volume only dogs and highly trained substitute teachers can hear. The clock ticks audibly. Every minute is measured in classroom survival units. The time until the pledge, the time until morning announcements, the time until recess, if you make it that far. There are rituals here. The sacred distribution of homework folders, the handing out of hall passes, a laminated passport to temporary freedom, the ceremonial stacking of chairs at the end of class, a social ballet of squeaks and surreptitious racing. All the while, the teacher's voice continues, steady and soothing, a metronome in a storm of scattered attention. You begin to sense the subtle tension, the split between the medicated and the au naturel. The dosed are docile, quietly waiting for instructions or contemplating the mysteries of ceiling tiles. The untamed twitch, plot, and daydream, their energy just barely contained by the institutional beige of the cinder block walls. Attendance done, Mrs. Nellis offers a faint, hopeful smile, as if daring the universe to keep the chaos at bay for just 5 more minutes. You lean back, half listening to announcements about pizza day and tornado drills, already strategizing your escape to art class. Homeroom, a 20-minute microcosm of an entire generation, half on stimulants, half powered by Fruit Loops, all navigating the wild frontier of public school, one roll call at a time. Let's talk about the school nurse. She wields a thermometer, a Band-Aid, and a locked drawer that could rival any CVS. By 9 a.m., there's already a line of fidgety kids clutching prescription slips and parental notes. The nurse's office is both sanctuary and purgatory. The hall smells of pencil shavings and floor wax. But crossing that threshold, you're greeted by the tang of rubbing alcohol and the faint scent of old carpet, plus something suspiciously reminiscent of canned chicken soup. The fluorescent lights flicker with the energy of a haunted hospital waiting room. A hand-painted, "Wash your hands" sign is taped above the sink, its once cheerful marker colors now faded to pastel shades of worry. You join the queue. Some kids are here for the classics. Mysterious stomach aches, imaginary fevers, the hope of escaping spelling tests. Others, like you, have a more specific mission. The daily dispensing of legal stimulants. You clutch your permission slip and wait your turn. In front of you, a boy mutters about needing his inhaler. Behind you, a girl rehearses her "I have a headache" routine with Oscar-worthy dedication. Mrs. Walling, the nurse, is a one-woman triage unit. Her uniform is a pastel sweater vest, her hair a steel grey helmet. She has the calm of someone who's weathered decades of lice panics, flu seasons, and the annual stomach virus that sweeps through the first grade like a biblical plague. She can spot a faker at 50 paces, but always delivers her verdict with a gentle, conspiratorial whisper, as if sharing a secret. No matter the reason you visit, you'll get the full ritual. Temperature, question about bowel movements, and a Band-Aid, even if you came in for a nosebleed or existential crisis. But the locked medicine drawer is where the magic happens. She unlocks it with a key worn on a shoelace around her neck, the most closely guarded artifact in the entire school, second only to the master copy of the end-of-year test. Inside, pill bottles, inhalers, mystery ointments, and envelopes stuffed with parental instructions that run the gamut from only if absolutely necessary to daily, before math. She checks the chart, double-checks your name, then holds up the Ritalin bottle with all the reverence of a pharmacist and a dash of maternal skepticism. "Did you eat breakfast?" she asks, as though a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch counts as a real meal. She hands you the pill and a tiny cup of water, never letting go until you promise not to hide it under your tongue. Some kids have mastered the subtle fake swallow, but the nurse has seen every trick. Her gaze is a lie detector, her patience unbreakable. Around you, a quiet ballet of dispensing unfolds. Some kids are regulars, breezing through their routines with the practiced ease of seasoned professionals. Others, new to the world of school-mandated medication, fumble nervously with their paper cups and ask if the pill will make them weird. Mrs. Walling reassures them all, dispensing empathy and medication in equal measure. Meanwhile, the office intercom crackles with requests for ice packs. He bonked his head again. And announcements of impending fire drills. The tiny cot in the corner is occupied by a second grader who's claimed tummy trouble but is just hoping to sleep through long division. The nurse's phone rings. It's someone's mom, triple-checking the dosage, her voice rising with each new question. Is he eating enough? Is she supposed to feel this tired? Does it really help? Or is this just the new normal? The nurse jots notes, files paperwork, and keeps the revolving door of ailment spinning. She's equal parts caretaker, detective, and amateur therapist. Some days, you suspect she's the only person in the building who truly knows everyone's secrets, physical, mental, and pharmaceutical. You swallow your pill, hand back the cup, and get a pat on the shoulder. It's not a cure-all, but it's a ritual. A moment of calm before you're tossed back into the chaos of multiplication tables and playground politics. The door swings open for the next kid in line, the nurse's office. America's smallest, busiest pharmacy. And, for a few moments each morning, the only place where the world feels organized, if only by alphabetical order and dosage instructions. Remember when trouble paying attention was just being a kid? Not anymore. Now, there's a checklist, a questionnaire, and a parent-teacher conference for every restless toe tap. Are you hyperactive or just bored out of your mind? Why not both? Your desk squeaks as you shift in your seat, watching the dust motes drift through the sunbeam that cuts across the classroom. Back in the day, 10, maybe 15 years earlier, a fidgeting student was just considered energetic, spirited, or, if you were really lucky, a future leader. Fast forward to the 1990s, and suddenly your inability to sit still through an entire math lesson without doodling in the margins of your notebook has been given its own diagnosis. The old school teacher's red pen has been replaced by a clipboard, a rating scale, and a sense of low-grade panic. It starts simply. Maybe you can't finish your worksheet because your brain is busy wondering how many pencils you could fit in your mouth at once. Or maybe you tap your foot so hard the entire row of desks vibrates like a low-budget earthquake simulator. One day, the teacher pulls your parents aside with that concerned yet practiced look. We've noticed Ray has some difficulty focusing, she says, her voice soft and full of meaning, especially during silent reading time. This is the opening bell for the Diagnostic Olympics. A note goes home. Suddenly, your living room is full of forms, Connors, rating scales, Vanderbilt assessments, and behavior checklists with statements like often fails to give close attention to details and is easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. You don't know what extraneous means, but it's probably the sound the clock makes during social studies. Next comes the parent-teacher conference. You're left outside with a highlights magazine while the adults sit in child-sized chairs, discussing your presentation of symptoms. The teacher describes your habit of pretending the eraser is a tiny rocket ship. Your mom points out that you also did that at Thanksgiving. The counselor, armed with a thick folder of academic research, begins to lay out the new landscape: attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. 4 words that, for the rest of the decade, will float around your head like the smell of cafeteria tater tots. The testing doesn't end there. Your doctor gets involved, maybe a pediatrician, maybe a specialist. There are questions about sleep, about snacks, about whether you squirm at the dinner table. You're sent to the school psychologist, who gives you a computerized attention task, a game that looks suspiciously like Space Invaders, but with fewer explosions and more disappointment. The result? More checklists. Your performance is rated, scored, and sometimes graphed. You too can now be a bar chart. Your parents start to compare notes with other parents at soccer practice. He just can't focus, they say, and everyone nods, knowingly, trading stories about after-school meltdowns and forgotten permission slips. At home, your mom scrutinizes every new habit. Did you always hum during commercials? Were you always this jumpy? Is it the diagnosis? Or just a growth spurt? Or maybe both at once? The process is equal parts science, guesswork, and cultural moment. In the 90s, everyone has a theory. Sugar, screen time, not enough fresh air, too much fresh air, the secret toxic powers of purple ketchup. It all gets written down, discussed, and sometimes even presented at back-to-school night. Meanwhile, you just want to be left alone with your Legos and the last 3 bites of your sandwich. Eventually, the questionnaires and meetings reach a critical mass, and a decision is made. There's a diagnosis, maybe a prescription, maybe a new seating arrangement away from the windows. You're officially on the radar. And from now on, every toe tap is logged, every missing worksheet is evidence, and every parent-teacher night is an update on how you're doing. You're not just a kid anymore, you're a case study in the great American quest to turn chalk dust into a checklist and chaos into a code that can fit on a chart. Your parents are summoned for a meeting. The teacher has graphs, the counselor has pamphlets. Your parents have questions. The only thing missing is snacks and maybe a prescription for adult anxiety. The conference room is a sensory limbo, part classroom, part bureaucratic lair, and unmistakably tense. Your mom clutches her purse like it's a life raft. Your dad sits next to her, trying not to make eye contact with the inspirational posters on the wall. Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Easier said than done when you're wondering if your child is about to be declared a medical mystery or just a handful. You sit outside in a plastic chair, feet not touching the floor, left with a faded copy of National Geographic Kids and a bowl of cracked crayons. Inside, the grown-ups are settling into what might as well be a corporate merger, only with more sighing. The teacher starts with a gentle smile and a multi-page printout of your progress. There are color-coded charts and graphs, one for on-task behavior and another for pencil-related incidents. If you're lucky, your teacher has even prepared a slideshow with bar graphs that look suspiciously like the results of a failed science fair project. The school counselor, equipped with a briefcase of pamphlets and the air of someone who's memorized the diagnostic and statistical manual for fun, hands out reading material, ADHD and you. Strategies for focus. Why your child is doing cartwheels during math. Your parents try to read and listen at the same time, but their eyes glaze over somewhere between differentiated learning and neurodivergence. Questions fly, and so does the anxiety. Are you saying he can't focus? Or is he just bored? Is this something he'll outgrow? Did I do this by letting him eat cereal out of the box? The teacher nods, deploying the world's most practiced, "we're all in this" together smile. The counselor hands out another pamphlet. Your parents are now in possession of more printed paper than the local library. There's talk of strategies, special seating arrangements. Now with 100% more distance from the windows. Fidget tools, we like to call them learning aids. And the classic, have you tried a reward chart? Your dad perks up at the word reward, but it turns out the prizes are usually stickers and not the vacation he was hoping for. You can almost smell the nervous sweat as the meeting shifts to medication. The word is dropped gently, like a glass ornament you're hoping won't break. Some families find that medication can help. The teacher's voice trails off, replaced by the counselor's softly reassuring hum about individualized approaches and collaborative teams. Your parents nod, but their faces say what every 90s parent feels. Am I failing at this? Or is the world just a little bit insane? Just once, you wish they'd bring snacks. Something to break the tension, a tray of store-brand cookies, or a few slices of school pizza. Instead, the only comfort comes from a tepid cup of coffee in a styrofoam cup, perched on the corner of the table next to a folder labeled Behavioral Intervention Plan. If caffeine really worked, every adult here would be running laps around the playground. There are questions about home life, bedtime routines, screen time, and the ever-present threat of too much stimulating content. Your mum mentions that you sleep just fine, except on nights before spelling tests or days that end in Y. The counselor scribbles a note and offers a sympathetic nod, as if this, too, is a clue. The meeting ends, finally, with handshakes, hopeful platitudes, and the unspoken agreement that no one knows what they're doing. Your parents leave with a bag of pamphlets, a list of suggested reading, and a heart full of new worries. You leave with a new appreciation for adults, and a suspicion that maybe everyone, everywhere, could use a little more recess. Parent-teacher meetings in the Ritalin era. High stakes, no snacks, and anxiety for all. By the mid-90s, America is obsessed with attention spans. Pharmacies are busier than Beanie Baby conventions. Your school is on the cutting edge. Every classroom is now a clinical trial with spelling tests. It starts small, with a few kids heading to the nurse's office for medicine. Soon, it's a well-oiled routine. The nurse becomes a morning pharmacist, pill bottles lined up next to the thermometer and the mystery drawer of cough drops. You notice that even the slowest kid in class can recite the difference between short-acting and extended release. At this point, the only things spreading faster than Pokemon cards are conversations about dosage. You overhear parents at the bus stop whispering about focus and behavioral interventions, phrases that, until recently, only belonged in college psychology courses. Now, they're everyday lingo. Your friend's mom has a spreadsheet of side effects. Another parent swaps recommendations for pediatricians like baseball cards, comparing wait times and whether Dr. Williams is pro-medication. The PTA meeting is half discussion about fundraising for new playground equipment, half impromptu TED talk on neurotransmitters. Back at school, the atmosphere has changed. The classroom feels like a low-stakes science lab. Half the kids are on something, the other half are waiting to see if they'll be next. Spelling tests become the unofficial litmus test. The on-Ritalin kids calmly fill in every blank. The not-yet crowd may or may not finish, depending on how recently they've had juice. You watch as your teacher takes mental notes, scanning the room with the keen eye of a talent scout at an Olympic tryout for desk sitting. The office becomes a pharmaceutical outpost, a place where the line for the nurse is as regular as the lunch line. Every bottle is labeled with Sharpie, and there's always that one kid who insists his tastes like bubble gum. It doesn't. The ritual is oddly soothing. Line up, take your pill, drink your water, get your little white slip to take back to class, a badge of honor for the medicated. Outside of school, the revolution is being televised. Daytime talk shows are obsessed. Panels of experts debate the epidemic, while commercials for everything from educational software to breakfast cereal begin to tout their attention, boosting benefits. News anchors warn of a nation of zombies, cut to interviews with worried parents, then swing straight to an ad for a new minivan with built-in cup holders and child-soothing features. Pharmacies, once places you only visited when someone had a cold, are now cultural crossroads. The pharmacist is everyone's confidant. They know your name, your symptoms, and exactly how long it's been since your last refill. There's a quiet camaraderie among kids waiting in line for their prescription. A sense that you're all part of something much bigger than math homework. At home, medicine cabinets are now medication organizers, complete with rainbow-colored compartments labeled for every day of the week. You become intimately familiar with the sound of pills shaking in a bottle, the sight of prescription pads, and the nervous look on your mom's face when the insurance coverage is still pending. Dinner conversation features side effects right alongside mashed potatoes. "How was your day?" is quickly followed by, "Did you notice any headaches? Was your appetite okay?" The gold rush isn't just for kids. Teachers and principals receive pamphlets, attend seminars, and swap stories about the latest research. If someone so much as zones out during a staff meeting, a colleague might half-jokingly suggest, "Maybe you need a little methylphenidate too." It's not clear if anyone's joking. In this era, the line between normal childhood fidgeting and medical emergency has blurred into oblivion. Hyperactivity, daydreaming, doodling, chewing your pencil eraser, none of it is just kids being kids. It's data. And data demands a solution. The Ritalin revolution sweeps through every classroom, every home, and every backpack. Welcome to the 90s, where a good attention span is worth its weight in gold, and a prescription is the new hall pass to academic success. It's recess. Some kids are running like their shoes are on fire, others move with slow, deliberate caution. Tag has never been so strategic. Dodgeball, now with pharmaceutical enhancement. You burst through the heavy double doors and into the wild savanna of the blacktop, where the stakes are high and the hierarchy is enforced with tetherballs and red rubber spheres. The air hums with anticipation, a cocktail of adrenaline, hope, and the faint chemical tang of hand sanitizer. For 20 sacred minutes, the world outside fades away, replaced by the sounds of sneakers squeaking, swings creaking, and the eternal debate over whether that was a real tag or just an enthusiastic brush of a sleeve. You scan the playground and instantly notice the split. Over here, the untamed. Kids whose parents said, "Let them be kids," or just couldn't get an appointment with Dr. Williams before Christmas. They ricochet off monkey bars and jungle gyms, flinging themselves into games with the wild, chaotic joy of someone who's been waiting to explode all morning. They are the engine of playground innovation, inventing new rules for kickball, declaring that the slide is now lava, and occasionally attempting to swing over the bar for glory and immortality. And then there's the medicated majority. Some are laser-focused, plotting their game strategy like tiny generals, legs pumping with mechanical efficiency. Others wander around the perimeter, hands in pockets, quietly discussing whether ants have feelings or if Batman could beat up a dinosaur. There's a calm to their movements, a steady, almost zen approach to play. They tag each other with surgical precision, no wasted steps, no flailing, no wild-eyed attempts to outrun the wind. If you were an outsider, you might suspect someone handed out Sudoku puzzles instead of pudding cups. Freeze tag becomes the battleground for both teams. The untamed dart and zigzag, yelling like every tag is a matter of life and death, occasionally sliding across the gravel with the kinetic energy of a pinball, the enhanced move with the tactical poise of chess grandmasters. One kid stands perfectly still, waiting for the precise moment to strike, then glides in and tags 3 people with the calm detachment of someone waiting in line at the DMV. The teachers on recess duty compare notes behind sunglasses. That's the new kid on the blue pill. Watch his pivots. The twins, untouched by modern medicine. God help us all. Meanwhile, dodgeball is an arms race. On one side, wild throws and primal shrieks. On the other, cool calculation, angle, velocity, timing. You watch a medicated fifth grader calculate a bounce shot off the wall, tagging an unsuspecting bystander in the foot. He apologizes, retrieves the ball, and continues his reign of controlled terror. There are alliances and betrayals, bursts of drama, and more than one conspiracy about who's hiding behind the trash cans to avoid being it. Occasionally, someone gets too excited and forgets the boundaries altogether, sprinting into the forbidden territory behind the teacher's lounge, where even the bravest dare not follow. Some kids hover on the swings, lost in daydreams, methodically pumping their legs in pursuit of that moment of weightlessness at the apex. For them, recess is less about victory and more about escape, a temporary drift into their own world, where attention isn't a commodity and nobody's tracking their steps with a clipboard. Of course, not every kid is a perfect case study. Sometimes the enhanced get a little wild, and the untamed have a moment of zen. Sometimes the boundaries blur, and you realize everyone's just out here trying to burn off the long morning of silent reading and math worksheets, hoping to win at least one round of tetherball before the bell rings. As the whistle blows, the playground erupts into groans and cheers, alliances dissolve, and energy levels return more or less to baseline. You line up, scuffed and sweaty, heart still pounding, a little less restless, but a lot more alive. This is playground energy in the age of Ritalin. Unpredictable, unstoppable, and absolutely unforgettable. You hit the lunchroom, a fluorescent-lit trading floor, cartons of milk, piles of rectangular pizza, and 1,000 whispered rumors. Who's on meds, who's natural, and who swapped their Ritalin for a pudding cup. The din is overwhelming, a blend of echoing voices, plastic trays sliding across tabletops, and the robotic beep of the cash register tallying up another $3 nutritious meal. The air smells of ketchup, industrial cheese, and anticipation. If you squint, you can almost pretend you're on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. If the stock in question was pudding and the primary currency was social status, there are unwritten rules in the lunchroom, and you learn them fast. First, pizza day is sacred. The rectangular slice is rubbery and always slightly lukewarm. But it's also the only meal guaranteed to get you through the afternoon without a snack-related existential crisis. You grab your tray and scan the room for a seat, your seat. Everyone knows that where you sit defines who you are, and one wrong move can change your entire school year. At your table, the negotiations begin. Someone has an extra brownie. Another kid is offering 2 bags of pretzels for a Capri Sundae. In the center of it all sits a child with a pudding cup and an expression of absolute power. There's always that one kid who seems to possess contraband snacks. Oreos on peanut-free day. A chocolate bar hidden beneath the bland apple slices. Sometimes, the rumors swirl that they got their snacks by trading their morning dose of Ritalin, a myth that makes the rounds every year and grows more elaborate with every telling. You start to notice subtle differences among your friends. Some kids eat with a slow, methodical calm, carefully picking at their carrots and pushing peas around the tray with surgical focus. Others devour their food in wild, ravenous gulps, as if every lunch is the last supper. You catch whispers, "She's on something. His mum made him go off it for the science fair. That's why he hasn't blinked since Tuesday." It's the unofficial gossip column of elementary school, where the headline is always who's up, who's down, and who's going natural for the summer. Peer pressure operates on multiple levels. There's the classic, "Eat this mystery meat, and we'll let you sit here" kind. But also the new pharmaceutical version. "You take medicine? What's it like?" Some kids are curious. Some are envious. and some wield their pill-free status like a badge of organic honor. My mum says I don't need medicine because I drink kombucha. This is said with the solemn pride of a child who's never tasted a Lunchable in their life. Of course, there are lunchtime confessions. Over trays of pizza and chocolate milk, secrets are exchanged as if you're in a makeshift group therapy session. Sometimes I forget my pill, and my brain feels like bees. Sometimes I take it and I just want to nap. The teachers on lunch duty float from table to table, trying to enforce order while ignoring the low-level pharmaceutical trade and high-level emotional negotiations. Food itself becomes a topic of suspicion. Is that why Tim isn't eating his pizza? Is Jenny's sudden salad obsession a side effect or just a failed attempt at maturity? You wonder, in a way only a kid can, if the secret to being popular is buried somewhere between the milk carton and the plastic-wrapped baby carrots. By the end of lunch, the energy in the room changes. Some kids buzz, others mellow out. The last bites are traded. The final secrets whispered. You toss your tray, try not to look at the mystery stain on the garbage can, and line up for class, full of pizza, pumped with rumors, and ready for whatever the afternoon brings. The lunchroom, a social laboratory, a rumor mill, and the one place where, for 20 minutes, your appetite and your reputation are equally at risk. You're called down for a chat. The guidance counselor, surrounded by motivational posters and wilted plants, asks you to talk about your feelings. You mostly think about pizza. The hallway outside the counselor's office is strangely quiet. Like the calm before a midterm storm, the floor tiles squeak beneath your sneakers, and you wonder if every teacher can hear you approaching, one scuffed footstep at a time. The office door is propped open, as if inviting you into a cozy den of emotional exploration, a place where hang in there, baby is not just a suggestion, but a wall-mounted commandment accompanied by a cartoon kitten clinging to a branch. You sink into the legendary guidance counselor's couch, a faded blue relic with stuffing that shifts beneath you, swallowing you up like a well-meaning quicksand. There's a box of tissues on the coffee table, just in case someone gets emotional, and a collection of stress balls that feel suspiciously sticky. Around you, plastic ferns and lopsided motivational posters set the tone. Every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. Feelings are not facts, and, for reasons unknown, math, it adds up. A slogan that inspires anxiety rather than confidence. Mrs. Sanderson, the guidance counselor, sits across from you in a rolling chair, clutching a clipboard and a mug that says, "World's Okayest Listener." Her voice is soft, her glasses slightly crooked. She gives you that gentle smile reserved for kids who are either about to cry or about to confess to something mildly illegal involving the school pet. "So, how are you feeling today?" she asks, with the quiet hopefulness of someone who truly believes in the power of the reflective pause. You try to focus, but your mind keeps drifting to what's for lunch, the plot of last night's cartoon, and the epic playground drama of who called who a weasel during dodgeball. Mrs. Sanderson asks questions about school, about home, about your focus. You nod, give vague answers, and briefly consider inventing a dramatic story about running away to join the circus just to see what she'd write in your file. She checks her clipboard, glancing at a checklist. Difficulty concentrating, trouble staying seated, talks excessively. You wonder if there's a box for occasionally wonders if the counselor has ever tasted a real pudding cup. Instead, you fidget with a stress ball shaped like an earthworm and look at the clock, which seems to tick more slowly in here than anywhere else in the building. Mrs. Sanderson's questions blend together. Do you feel restless? Are you having trouble sleeping? How are you getting along with your classmates? You answer in a code that only children understand, where fine means can we talk about something else, and okay is a placeholder for 1,000 thoughts about everything except the topic at hand. Eventually, she hands you a feelings chart, a rainbow wheel of cartoon faces, ranging from ecstatic to absolutely not. You pick hungry and mildly annoyed, neither of which are options. She makes a note, offers you a Jolly Rancher, and says you can always come back if you want to talk more. You're not sure if this is a threat or an open invitation, but the Jolly Rancher is green apple, so you take it as a win. As you leave, she reminds you that her door is always open, and you briefly wonder what would happen if you just moved in and took your naps on the couch every day after lunch. On the way out, you grab a sticker from the Great Job, bin and return to class. Not entirely sure what you accomplished, but feeling lighter, as if you've successfully navigated a minor side quest in the game of elementary school. The guidance counselor's office. Part therapist's den. Part motivational poster graveyard. And, at least for a few minutes, a safe place to nap, daydream, or simply survive the growing pains of life in the age of attention. Testing season. Everyone is expected to sit still, bubble carefully, and achieve. Your mind, powered by methylphenidate and existential dread, stares at Scantron sheets like they might reveal the meaning of life. The room is silent, except for the faint hum of the overhead lights and the gentle scratch-scratch of number 2 pencils. The desks, normally scattered in loose clusters, are arranged in rigid, perfectly spaced rows, as if the janitor used a ruler and a minor threat of force. The clock ticks louder than usual. Each second, another reminder that time is passing and you are, once again, expected to demonstrate your worth through a series of small, perfectly formed circles. Your teacher paces up and down the aisles like a referee at a high-stakes championship, clutching a sheaf of test booklets and exuding an aura of caffeine and barely concealed panic. She reminds everyone, again, not to write outside the bubbles, not to use pen, not to turn the page until instructed. There are dire warnings about stray marks, double-bubbled answers, and the unthinkable disaster of not filling the circle in all the way. It's a ballet of anxiety, choreographed to the symphony of bubbling and eraser dust. You flip open your test booklet. The questions blur together: reading comprehension, math problems, passages about dolphins and railroads, and the nutritional value of ancient grains. You stare at the Scantron sheet, the pale green grid stretching out before you like a field of tiny decisions. Each bubble is a choice, a possibility, a secret portal. If only you could remember if you're supposed to choose C for the third answer, or if that's just superstition passed down from older siblings. Your mind, chemically turbocharged but still prone to wandering, tries to focus. For the first 5 questions, you are a machine. Read, answer, bubble, repeat. But by question 6, your brain begins its usual mutiny. Why is the reading passage about a raccoon's life cycle so sad? How does anyone have enough self-control to not peek at the next section? What if the real test is not whether you can find the main idea, but whether you can resist the urge to doodle in the margins? All around you, classmates engage in the same mental wrestling match. Some stare with furrowed brows, lips moving as they silently sound out the word photosynthesis for the 12th time. Others finish a section in record speed, flip their pencil, and spend the next 5 minutes erasing imaginary mistakes. You hear the gentle clack of a pencil rolling off a desk and hitting the floor, a sound that feels more dramatic during testing season than at any other time in human history. The hours stretch and compress. There's a bathroom break, but only if you're escorted, and everyone walks with the solemn air of a prisoner on a yard break. You wash your hands, splash cold water on your face, and return to the room where the test still awaits, patient, silent, mildly judgmental. Lunch arrives. You eat in a hush, forbidden from discussing the questions, though you all attempt to communicate your feelings through a series of expressive sighs and wild-eyed glances. The air is heavy with unasked questions and the lingering suspicion that someone accidentally skipped a bubble and doomed their academic future. The last section arrives. You force your mind back into gear, willing the methylphenidate to kick in just a little longer. Bubble, bubble, erase, bubble. At some point, the questions dissolve into numbers and symbols. By the final page, you're convinced the Scantron knows your deepest secrets, and you begin to wonder if anyone ever actually finishes the test feeling smart. Finally, time is called. You drop your pencil, fingers cramped, and hand in your sheet, a monument to focus, frustration, and the eternal mystery of whether the answer was B or D. The standardized test, a rite of passage, an annual ritual, and the closest you'll ever get to enlightenment via multiple choice. It's assembly day. The principal's speech echoes through the gym. Half the students are zoning out. The other half are locked in with laser focus, thanks to modern medicine. You wonder which group you're in. The air in the gym is thick with anticipation and the unmistakable scent of floor polish, gym socks, and possibly someone's forgotten tuna sandwich from last week. The bleachers are packed, every class arranged in color-coded lines that only make sense to teachers. You're wedged somewhere between the kid who hums TV theme songs and the girl who's brought an entire set of scented markers, which will be traded like black market currency before the principal even gets to the school motto. The lights are dimmed to create the illusion of importance. Banners from last year's spelling bee and the infamous "No Running in the Hall" poster flutter from the rafters. The PA system, which only works on every third syllable, crackles to life, and the principal's voice booms, bouncing off the walls and back into the ears of kids who would rather be anywhere else. You scan the crowd and see the split. Some students are staring off into the distance, eyes glazed, mouths hanging open like sunbathing carp. One boy is drawing an elaborate maze on his forearm with a purple marker. The medicated kids, meanwhile, sit upright, tracking the principal's every word with the intensity of NASA engineers at a rocket launch. Their heads nod at all the right moments. Their posture is suspiciously perfect. You watch and wonder if you're supposed to feel proud, jealous, or just a little concerned. As the principal launches into the fifth anecdote about working together and school spirit, the gym becomes a theater of survival strategies. The unmedicated fidget and squirm, shifting like a restless herd as they plot imaginary escape routes. Some try to synchronize their breathing with the echoing speech, just to pass the time. You spot a group on the far bleachers playing silent games of rock, paper, scissors, the stakes rising with each round. One girl tries to sneak a book under her hoodie. The teacher gives her a look that could curdle milk. Every few minutes, the principal pauses for dramatic effect, glancing over the student body as if expecting spontaneous applause. A few medicated kids clap enthusiastically, maybe genuinely invested, maybe just hoping it's almost over. For the rest, it's an invitation to daydream. Thoughts drift to recess, snack time, or the existential mystery of whether you remembered to wear matching socks today. You try to focus, you really do. But there's something about the gym, the buzz of the fluorescent lights, the hypnotic patterns of the basketball court, the sticky spot under your left sneaker, that makes concentration impossible. The speech drones on, each word a gentle nudge towards sleep. The kid next to you starts to nod off, his head bobbing like a buoy in a gentle tide. Someone on the back row lets out a tiny, accidental snore. A teacher shuffles down the aisle, shooting warning glances. The front row sits at attention, possibly out of fear, possibly out of genuine interest in the principal's plan for this year's fundraiser. You, meanwhile, toggle between hyper-awareness and the urge to retreat into your own thoughts. The words Teamwork and leadership swirl in your head, mixing with fleeting images of pizza, playground drama, and the sweet, sweet taste of post-assembly freedom. Eventually, after a story involving a lost hamster and the importance of never giving up, metaphor unclear, the assembly draws to a close. A wave of relief sweeps the crowd. Students rise, stretching like they've just survived a 10-hour flight. The principal, ever hopeful, wishes everyone a productive day. The doors open, and you stumble out, unsure if you learned anything except that some speeches last longer than childhood. School assemblies in the Ritalin era. A battle between chemistry and chaos, speeches and daydreams, and the eternal question, was I even awake for most of that? Physical education is a circus. Some kids move like caffeinated squirrels. Others are zen, like statues. The gym teacher just wants everyone to climb the rope and stop licking the dodgeballs. You file into the gym, sneakers squeaking on polished wood, already steeling yourself for whatever fresh chaos awaits. The cavernous space is filled with echoes, shouts, bouncing balls, the screech of sneakers, and that one kid who insists on shrieking every time he runs laps. The smell of sweat, old rubber, and industrial-strength cleaning spray wafts through the air like a nostalgic punch to the face. Coach Miller stands in the center of it all, whistle dangling from his neck, clipboard in hand, and the expression of a man who has witnessed every conceivable gym class disaster and somehow lived to tell about it. He gives a speech about sportsmanship and giving it your all. But all you can focus on is the impossibly tall climbing rope hanging from the rafters like some medieval test of character. On one end of the gym, the untamed kids, medication skipped or never prescribed, are already sprinting in circles, inventing new rules to games no one understands, and trying to convince the substitute that foursquare is a full-contact sport. Their energy is boundless, their enthusiasm unchecked, and their attention span about as long as the time it takes to say dodgeball. You watch as one kid sprints for the bleachers, leaps over a stack of cones, and then, just for fun, runs right out the gym doors and into legend. Meanwhile, the enhanced crowd takes a different approach. Some move with tranquil, almost meditative grace, unfazed by the chaos around them. They dribble basketballs with perfect rhythm, jog laps at a steady, machine-like pace, and await their turn at the rope with the focus of monks preparing for a silent retreat. Occasionally, one will break the spell with a question about the rules, sending Coach Miller into a minor existential crisis. The real spectacle, though, is the rope. Coach Miller lines everyone up, barking encouragement and, occasionally, very specific warnings about not using the rope to swing across the gym like Tarzan. One after another, kids attempt the climb, some shooting up like squirrels on espresso, others clutching the rope for dear life, legs kicking in slow-motion defiance of gravity. There's always one kid who freezes halfway up, convinced that they've reached the stratosphere, and has to be gently coaxed down with promises of extra recess and a juice box. Dodgeball, of course, is its own subgenre of chaos. The unmedicated kids attack with wild, unpredictable abandon, hurling rubber balls at supersonic speeds, shrieking with the glee of tiny gladiators. The medicated team counterattacks with calculated precision, their throws timed and targeted with clinical efficiency. The result? A ballet of dodges, feints, and the occasional philosophical debate about whether or not a ricochet off the ceiling really counts. You, meanwhile, try to stay out of the line of fire, both literal and metaphorical. You attempt a lap around the gym, narrowly avoiding a pile-up by the jump ropes. You get tagged out in dodgeball, but use the opportunity to sit on the sidelines and contemplate the mysteries of human movement and why, despite repeated warnings, kids keep licking the dodgeballs. They're always weirdly salty. No one knows why. At the end of class, Coach Miller blows his whistle, signaling an end to the mayhem. Everyone collapses in a sweaty, triumphant heap. Shirts are untucked, shoelaces are untied, and somewhere, a dodgeball is still bouncing off a distant wall. You file back to the locker room, both exhausted and weirdly energized, reminded that gym class in the age of Ritalin is not about winning or losing, but about surviving the circus with most of your dignity and all of your teeth intact. You find yourself in the principal's office, not for anything bad, just for being spirited. The principal, a relic from another era, asks if you've had your medicine today. You wonder if he has. The office is a time capsule. There's a faint smell of coffee and yellowing paperwork, and the furniture is stuck somewhere between 1974 and whatever year they stopped manufacturing fake wood paneling. Framed photos of stern-looking school board members line the walls, all frowning in solidarity. A giant fish tank, home to one disinterested goldfish, bubbles quietly, the only thing here less enthusiastic than you about being called out of class. You sit in the chair opposite the principal's massive desk, your feet dangling, nervous but not scared. You scan the collection of ancient motivational posters, their messages fading but still determined. Attitude is everything. Reach for the stars, and the cryptic, be a pal, not a pest. There's a tray of mints on the edge of the desk, the same mints that have been there since your older sibling went here, possibly the same mints your parents once politely declined. The principal, Mr. Hodges, is a man of ritual. He wears a tie so wide you could use it as a picnic blanket and thick glasses that magnify his eyes to librarian proportions. He sits down with a practiced sigh and steeples his fingers in the universal sign. "For I'm about to ask a question that will haunt you all afternoon," he starts gently. "Now, Ray, do you know why you're here?" You do, but you're not about to confess to inventing the game Rolling Chair Demolition Derby in the library. He continues, listing off your alleged crimes, talking during quiet time, excessive enthusiasm in gym, and the classic, making the other students laugh when they're supposed to be reading. You want to argue that humor is a gift, but Mr. Hodges is on a roll. You're a bright student, but sometimes, do you remember to take your medicine every day? You nod. Unsure if the correct answer is always or only when my mom remembers. He gives you the look, the one that says he remembers a different world, a world where kids like you just ran laps around the playground until they wore themselves out. You know, when I was your age, we didn't have all these pills and timeouts. We just had nap time and black coffee. Well, not the kids, but you get my meaning. You try to look contrite, but your attention drifts to the jar of erasers shaped like fruit. Mr. Hodges follows your gaze, then launches into a story about the great paint spill of 1982. It lasts 5 minutes but feels like a year. He circles back to the importance of making good choices and using your energy for good. You nod, vowing to use your powers only for school-approved activities like reading quietly or lining up for recess without commentary. A secretary pops in, dropping off a disciplinary form and a cookie. You're not sure if it's a bribe or a reward, but you take it anyway. Mr. Hodges softens, the official tone giving way to something almost like nostalgia. You're not a bad kid, Ray, just spirited. The world needs spirited people. Just maybe save it for after math class, all right? You promise to try. He sends you back to class with a mint and a pass. Your reputation a little battered but mostly intact. As you leave, you wonder if there's a form you can fill out to suggest principal timeouts. Or if maybe, just maybe, everyone in the building could use a little more recess and a tiny orange pill of their own. The principal's office. A shrine to the past. A checkpoint for the present. And the place where trouble is just another word for too much personality before lunchtime. Science class. Today's lesson. Build a baking soda volcano and try not to set off the fire alarm. Your heart rate matches the experiment, explosive, unpredictable, and possibly medicated. You take your place at a wobbly lab table, surrounded by a sea of plastic safety goggles, torn notebook paper, and the unmistakable scent of Elmer's glue. There's excitement in the air, a special kind of giddiness reserved for days when learning means getting your hands dirty, and the outcome might actually involve a minor catastrophe. Your teacher, Mrs. Dietrich, stands at the front, holding up a battered box of baking soda like she's unveiling a lost artifact from the Smithsonian. She goes over the instructions, but you only hear every other word. Something about controlled chemical reaction, don't eat the vinegar, and if it bubbles, back away slowly. You nod enthusiastically, though your mind is split between a growing anticipation of the eruption and the distant hope that today's experiment will top last year's record for most impressive classroom mess. Mrs. Dietrich's trust is misplaced. You haven't listened this closely to anything since the Great Fire Drill of '93. You're paired with 3 classmates. One, enhanced, who's already measuring the baking soda with surgical precision. One, untamed, who is, at this moment, building a tower of glue sticks. And one wildcard, whose only contribution is the suggestion to add glitter for effect. The supplies are distributed: baking soda, vinegar, a bottle that used to hold root beer, and food coloring, because science is always better when it stains your hands. The classroom is a beehive of activity. Some students are methodical, reading the instructions twice, carefully spooning baking soda into narrow-necked bottles. Others skip straight to the fun part, splashing vinegar and dye with wild abandon. You try to follow the steps, but the urge to go off script is overwhelming. Science, after all, is about discovery, and maybe a little chaos. The first eruptions are met with squeals and laughter. A dozen volcanoes spew pink foam across the tables. Someone spills vinegar onto the floor, and a collective gasp ripples through the room as it narrowly avoids the teacher's gradebook. The air is alive with energy and the acrid tang of fake lava. Your hands shake, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline rush that only comes when you're trusted with chemicals in elementary school. Your group's volcano is a work of art, a mountain of papier-mâché, colored with more marker than paint, with a secret stash of extra baking soda for maximum effect. You pour in the vinegar. For a moment, nothing happens. The tension is unbearable. Did you use too little? Too much? Then, foom! The volcano erupts with a glorious, frothing wave of orange foam, splattering your desk, your hands, and, if you're honest, half your science notebook. Mrs. Dietrich hurries over, both proud and mildly alarmed. "Controlled reaction, Ray," she calls, wiping foam off your worksheet. You nod sheepishly, adrenaline still buzzing. In the chaos, someone manages to set off a chemical chain reaction so powerful that the classroom smells like a pickled salad bar for days. The untamed kid cheers, the enhanced one takes notes, and the wildcard tries to bottle the foam for later. Science is a collaborative effort, after all. Cleanup is part of the ritual. You wipe sticky residue from the tables, scrape dried baking soda off your hands, and help rescue a plastic dinosaur that nearly drowned in the eruption. The fire alarm didn't go off this time, and Mrs. Dietrich congratulates the class on their innovative approach to volcanology. The bell rings, your heart finally returns to normal, and you head to your next class. Fingers sticky, brain buzzing, ready for whatever academic mountain comes next. Science class. Equal parts, chaos, chemistry, and childhood heart palpitations. Just the way learning should be. The bell rings. Now the real work begins. Homework. Can Ritalin help you diagram sentences and solve for X? Or will you be distracted by literally anything else, including dust motes and existential dread? You arrive home, backpack heavier than your existential burdens, the faint residue of cafeteria pizza still clinging to your fingertips. The dining room table transforms into your nightly battleground. A battlefield of pencil shavings, half-finished worksheets, and the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, tonight will be different. You'll focus, finish early, and have time left for TV or Nintendo, or inventing new ways to annoy your sibling. The optimism is palpable. It never survives past the first question. You pull out your math homework. Solve for X. Easy enough, if X is your attention span and Y is literally anything more interesting than the worksheet in front of you. You sharpen your pencil to a surgical point. You align your papers with the precision of an air traffic controller. You stare at the first problem, but in the corner of your eye, a sunbeam dances across a dust mote, shimmering with the promise of anything but homework. Your brain, carefully tuned by modern medicine, attempts to corral your thoughts, but the distractions are legion. The television whispers from the next room. The dog barks at invisible threats. A mysterious itch develops on your ankle, then your nose, then inexplicably both elbows at once. You do your best, but your mind drifts. What if dogs could do homework? How does anyone know the capital of Wyoming? Would a pencil taste like sadness or like nothing at all? Your parent makes an appearance, offering a snack and the gently threatening reminder that homework comes before video games. You nod solemnly, mouth full of goldfish crackers, eyes full of rebellion. They hover for a minute, scanning your progress, then drift away, certain that Ritalin will keep you on task. And for a few shining moments, it does. You diagram a sentence, underline the predicate, and circle something that might be a noun. Progress is made, hope returns. You feel the gears turning, focus, accomplishment, mild superiority. Then the distractions mount their counterattack. A passing car plays your favorite song. You remember you were supposed to bring a permission slip for the field trip tomorrow. You wonder if your teacher really reads all the answers or just checks for pencil marks. You stare at the clock and contemplate the mechanics of time itself. Why does it move so slowly now, but so quickly when you're watching cartoons? You switch to science. A worksheet about the water cycle. Your thoughts swirl like condensation on a cold glass. Evaporation, transpiration, daydreamation. You draw a tiny cloud in the margin. It's a masterpiece, and you briefly consider switching careers from homework victim to professional doodler. By the time you hit your reading assignment, you're flagging. The medication's magic is fading, the distractions are doubling, and even the dust motes have lost their charm. You read the same paragraph 3 times, absorb nothing, and write a book report that is 80% plot summary and 20% wild speculation about the character's feelings. Eventually, through sheer force of will and parental pressure, you finish. The homework is completed, if not polished. Your focus is spent, your patience thinner than the eraser on your pencil. You stash your worksheets, vow to be more organized tomorrow, and collapse onto the couch, where you'll spend the evening recovering from your daily battle with focus. Homework in the age of Ritalin, a test of attention, persistence, and the ability to resist the siren song of anything more interesting than diagramming sentences. Victory is measured not in perfect grades, but in surviving another round. You collapse in front of the TV. Cartoons and special reports on the growing epidemic of childhood hyperactivity. The media is obsessed. You just want to watch Animaniacs in peace. The living room feels like sanctuary, carpet squishy under your socked feet, backpack abandoned in a heap, the faint aroma of something microwaved in the air. You grab the remote, that magic scepter of childhood, and thumb through the channels with the energy of someone who just survived a day in the American educational system. Afternoon sunlight spills through the blinds, striping the furniture like a tiger, and you know, deep in your bones, that these are the golden hours. No homework for now, no chores, yet. And nothing to do but disappear into television's comforting glow. Your brain, still humming with residual methylphenidate, needs this downtime. Cartoons flicker across the screen, each one brighter and louder than the last. The characters are as jittery as your classmates. Yakko, Wacko, and Dot bouncing around the Warner Brothers lot, Pinky and the Brain plotting to take over the world, and the Rugrats going full chaos mode. It's a parade of animated mayhem, and for once, you feel at home in the pandemonium. The quick cuts, the rapid-fire jokes, the background gags that take 3 rewatches to catch. Cartoons were built for kids whose attention moves at the speed of light. But the peace never lasts. Every few episodes, your favorite shows are interrupted by a very special report. The music changes. No more zany xylophones, just a somber piano as a serious news anchor stares into the camera, brow furrowed, talking about the Ritalin epidemic sweeping America's classrooms. The words attention deficit disorder echo across the living room as B-roll footage shows kids fidgeting in classrooms, parents wringing their hands, and doctors explaining brain chemistry with plastic models. You try to change the channel, but it's everywhere, on the local news, national news, even that talk show your grandma likes. Every reporter has an opinion, every expert has a theory, and every commercial break promises a solution. Does your child struggle to sit still? Talk to your doctor about options. Options meaning, of course, another pill bottle to add to the family collection. For a few seconds, you wonder if the news is talking about you. Are you part of the epidemic? Are your classmates? Is your teacher secretly sending video footage of your fidgeting to 60 Minutes? You briefly imagine an investigative journalist hiding behind the toy box, scribbling notes as you bounce on the sofa. But then the cartoons come back. The music swells, the colors return, and you sink into the couch, letting the rhythm of animated chaos wash over you. The world outside can worry about diagnoses and statistics and the existential crisis of modern parenting. For these precious minutes, you're just a kid again, laughing at slapstick gags, reciting catchphrases, and quoting commercials for sugary cereal with the precision of a trial attorney. Your parents pass through the room, sometimes pausing to watch the special reports with pursed lips, other times shaking their heads at the sheer noise of it all. They ask if you finished your homework, if you remembered to take your pill, if you want a snack. You nod absently, eyes glued to the TV as a cartoon chicken tries to cross the road for reasons that will never be fully explained. Eventually, the sun fades, the room darkens, and the last cartoon ends. NewsHour returns, promising more updates on America's distracted youth. But you're done for the day. You turn off the TV, gather your things, and head for dinner, content, if only for a little while, to let the experts argue while you just try to remember where you left your Game Boy. After-school TV, a patchwork of animated chaos, media panic, and, if you're lucky, a few moments of peace that the world outside can never touch. Your sibling, not on meds, bounces around the living room. You compare notes. Is this what normal feels like? Or are you just the pharmaceutical guinea pig of the family? The living room is the family's natural arena, a patchwork of abandoned socks, board game pieces, and one very nervous goldfish. Your sibling zips back and forth like a caffeinated squirrel, ricocheting off the couch cushions, trying to see how many times they can spin in a circle before the dog gets dizzy. You, meanwhile, sit in measured stillness, watching this display of free-range childhood like a scientist observing an exotic species in its native habitat. The comparisons are impossible to ignore. You do your homework, your sibling tries to teach the dog to skateboard, you line up your shoes by the door. Your sibling can't remember which shoe goes on which foot. Your parents, always careful to use the word different, remind you that everyone's brain is special. It sounds reassuring, but you can't help noticing that your special comes with a prescription and a twice-a-year meeting with someone who calls herself an executive function coach. You start to wonder if your sibling is somehow immune to the grown-up panic swirling around attention spans and report cards. They seem to exist in a universe where forgetting is just a part of the game and hyperactivity is not a diagnosis, but an Olympic sport. They climb the furniture, invent new ways to lose their backpack, and somehow always get the last pudding cup without anyone noticing. The rivalry is subtle but ever present. You compare snack preferences. Your sibling hoovers up cookies and chips like they're training for a carb-loading contest, while your appetite ebbs and flows with your daily dosage. You compare TV tastes. Your sibling wants cartoons with as much volume and chaos as possible, while you sometimes long for a show with an actual plot and fewer explosions. You compare punishments. Your sibling is sent to burn off energy in the backyard, while you get extra chores to channel your focus. At dinner, the differences become more pronounced. Your sibling chatters non-stop, bouncing topics from dinosaurs to Pokemon to the weird thing in the bathroom. You answer questions with the calm precision of someone who's been observed by adults for signs of growth. Your parents attempt to referee, passing out peas and platitudes. Everyone's different. Some people just have more energy. The conversation is punctuated by the sound of a fork dropping, a chair tipping, and your sibling asking, "Can I have dessert now for the third time in 5 minutes?" You sometimes wonder if your sibling is the control group in this grand experiment. Is this what regular childhood looks like? Untamed, unfocused, unburdened by side effects? Or are you the family's medical marvel, the case study for what happens when science meets snack time? You find yourself quietly tallying the score. Who gets in trouble more? Who gets more hugs? Who wins at Mario Kart? Still, there's a strange comfort in the chaos. Your sibling's wildness is a reminder that not every moment needs to be measured or managed. Sometimes, when no one's watching, you join in, racing around the coffee table, laughing until you both collapse in a heap, the boundaries between medicated and free-range blurring into ordinary childhood. When bedtime comes, you lie in your separate rooms, one reading quietly, the other narrating an imaginary adventure to a long-suffering stuffed animal. You wonder if, one day, scientists will study your family and discover that the secret to happiness isn't medicine or mayhem, but the ability to love each other through the glorious mess of growing up. Sibling rivalry in the age of Ritalin. Part science experiment, part circus act, and always, at its core, a messy, marvelous show of what it means to be a family. Time for your checkup. The doctor pulls out a chart, asks about your appetite, and hands your parents another prescription with all the ceremony of passing the salt. You're summoned from the waiting room, where Highlights magazines are missing their best puzzles and the fish tank's lone survivor eyes you with suspicion. The exam room is painted a shade of pastel that exists nowhere in nature, and decorated with faded stickers and an ancient poster explaining the food pyramid, a colorful monument to your parents' nutritional guilt. You perch on the crinkly paper, swinging your legs and scanning the counter for evidence of tongue depressors or, if you're lucky, the infamous grape-flavored lollipop. The pediatrician enters with a practiced smile and a clipboard stacked with growth charts. She greets you by name, even though she's checked your file twice on the way in, and immediately launches into the familiar routine. Height, weight, and then, the moment of truth, the percentile reveal. She traces her finger along the graph, compares it to a tattered sheet from your last visit, and announces your current status in the great race of childhood development. Right on track, maybe just a little light for your age. She asks the ritual questions. How's your appetite? Any trouble sleeping? Have you noticed any new side effects? Your parent tries to remember if you actually ate dinner last week or just rearranged your food into a smiling face. You nod vaguely, aware that the correct answer is always, I feel fine, even if your stomach still does backflips at the sight of broccoli. Next comes the interrogation about school. Are you focusing in class? How are your grades? Any trouble finishing assignments? The doctor jots notes as your parent launches into a highlight reel of last quarter's report card, careful to mention both your great improvement and the incident with the library cart. The pediatrician nods sagely, the kind of nod that says, I've heard it all, and yes, your child is still perfectly average. The real star of the show is the prescription pad. It sits on the counter, innocuous and powerful, a ticket to another month of carefully dosed childhood. The pediatrician flips through your chart, scans the latest guidelines, and reaches for the pad with the casual ease of someone passing the salt at dinner. She asks your weight again, double-checks the milligram dosage, and writes your name with the practiced flourish of a champion speller. The script is torn off and handed to your parent, who accepts it with the reverence usually reserved for concert tickets or overdue library notices. You catch snippets of adult conversation, insurance, refill schedules, side effects. There's talk of titration and therapeutic window, terms that sound important but mostly mean you'll be stopping by the pharmacy on the way home. The pediatrician offers advice on snacks, hydration, and maybe sneaking in a multivitamin just in case. Your parent smiles, nods, and files the prescription in the folder marked Important, wedged between soccer schedules and pizza coupons. The checkup ends with the usual perks, a sticker for bravery, a lollipop for enduring the indignity of a blood pressure cuff that always pinches, and a reminder to keep up the good work. You leave the exam room with a new prescription, a crumpled chart showing you're still growing, and the vague sense that your entire life is being managed one carefully calibrated month at a time. Back in the car, your parent sighs with relief. You play with your sticker, pop the lollipop into your mouth, and think about how strange it is to be measured, weighed, and medicated as a matter of routine. The pediatrician's office, where growth is charted, prescriptions are passed, and childhood marches on, one refill at a time. You notice the side effects: dry mouth, lost appetite, maybe a hint of existential confusion. Snack time is complicated. Suddenly, pudding cups taste like regret and apple slices. You stare at your snack bag, the familiar Ziploc pouch now transformed into a chemistry set of uncertainty. There's a granola bar, a slightly bruised banana, and a pudding cup with your name carefully written in permanent marker, a preventative measure against sibling sabotage. Once, these were treasures. Now, they're a gauntlet. It begins with the mouth. Your tongue feels like sandpaper and the roof of your mouth like a newly paved parking lot. You suck on the straw of your juice box, hoping for relief, but it's never enough. Grape juice, orange juice, even water, nothing cuts through the pharmaceutical Sahara that's set up shop behind your teeth. The pudding cup used to be your snack time highlight, but now it's more of an existential dare. Will it taste creamy and delightful, or will it sit in your mouth like a spoonful of wallpaper paste? You peel the lid, give it a try, and confirm. Today, pudding tastes like regret and lost dreams. You know snack time should be sacred. A break in the academic day. A few precious moments to just be a kid, unburdened by the tyranny of math and spelling. Instead, you're locked in a battle of willpower against a pack of apple slices. Your teacher walks by, asks if you're doing okay, and you give a thumbs up, the universal sign for, I am being slowly dehydrated by modern medicine, but thanks for asking. Across the table, your friends are trading cookies for chips, munching contentedly, unaware of your struggle. Then there's the matter of appetite. Some days, you feel as if you could skip lunch and dinner and barely notice. Other days, the hunger comes out of nowhere at 9 p.m., leaving you foraging through the pantry in your pajamas, seeking sustenance among old Halloween candy and the stale end piece of a loaf of bread. Your parents worry, asking if you want extra snacks, then frown when you leave half of them untouched. You start to feel a little guilty for not finishing your yogurt, even though your brain insists there are more pressing concerns, like why the word snack suddenly feels like a homework assignment. Sleep, of course, is another adventure. On some nights, you tumble into bed, body exhausted but mind wide awake, thoughts skittering from science homework to the meaning of life, to the possibility that you'll never taste pudding the same way again. Other nights, you crash hard, waking at 2 a.m. to wonder if you're late for school, then dozing off again only to wake up moments before your alarm with the world's driest mouth. You overhear adults talking about side effects as if they're discussing the weather. How's he sleeping? Any appetite yet? Did you see him eat an entire banana on Tuesday? Your teacher keeps a stash of crackers in her desk for emergencies, but you learn that emergency just means you haven't touched your snack for 2 consecutive days. In the great snack time drama of the 90s, the real struggle isn't about who brought the best treat or how many gushers you can fit in your mouth. It's about finding a balance, making peace with your changing tastes, the unpredictability of appetite, and the gentle confusion that comes with growing up medicated. You learn to cherish the small victories. The day pudding tastes normal. The afternoon you actually finish your apple slices. The rare occasion when your mouth isn't dry as the Mojave. Snack time in the Ritalin era. Part break, part science experiment, and always a lesson in patience, resilience, and the search for flavor in a world suddenly full of side effects. Scholastic Book Fair Week. You wander the rows, eyes glazed, trying to choose between Goosebumps and Captain Underpants while your brain tries to process both the books and the chemical cocktail. The school library has transformed from its usual hush-hush sanctum into a pop-up marketplace of dreams. The familiar musty smell of old paper has been replaced by the unmistakable aroma of plastic book covers and the faint chemical tang of whatever new cleaner the janitor is trialing this week. The tables are stacked with glossy, glittering book displays. There are bookmarks with inspirational quotes, posters of cats hanging in there, and spy pens that may or may not actually work. You clutch your handful of crumpled dollars, nervously eyeing the prize table, erasers shaped like race cars, pencil toppers shaped like aliens, and a big, plastic box labeled World's Smallest Dictionary, which somehow still feels like it weighs more than your social studies textbook. Your mission: to make the biggest, boldest, most envy-inducing book purchase possible, without going over budget or having a mid-aisle existential meltdown. But today, your brain is operating on dual power. The promise of retail therapy, and a whirring undercurrent of Ritalin clarity. You hover between books, hyper-analyzing every choice. Goosebumps? Terrifying but impossible to put down. Captain Underpants? Hilarious, but is it too silly for your new, mature 5th grade self? Magic Tree House? Always reliable. But maybe you should branch out. You start to question if any decision you've ever made has truly been your own, or if you're simply at the mercy of the Scholastic Book Fair's marketing department. The crowds don't help. The room is a sea of kids jostling for space, the decibel level approaching small airport status. One kid clutches a stack of Animorphs, his eyes wild with paperback-induced euphoria. Another is haggling over a poster of a horse with a mane made entirely of rainbows. There's the ever-present gaggle of early finishers, darting around the tables, dropping loud hints about which books their parents totally forgot to give them money for. Teachers hover in the background, trying to maintain order, while also eyeing the grown-up table, where adult mysteries and discounted cookbooks quietly gather dust. The librarian looks both harried and delighted, her usual no-talking rule temporarily suspended in honor of capitalism and literary chaos. Your mind, already on sensory overload, does its best to focus on the matter at hand. Should you get a bookmark with googly eyes? Will your parents approve of a poster featuring a haunted ventriloquist dummy? You're about to make your final selection when the morning dose of Ritalin seems to peak. Suddenly, you're laser-focused. You read the back of every book. Twice. You compare the font size. You briefly consider buying a study guide for the SAT, just in case. Time slips away. You realize you've been staring at the same pile of Garfield comics for what feels like hours. And your friends are already in the checkout line, waving their purchases like lottery winners. Pressure mounts. You make your choices: 2 goosebumps, a pack of neon gel pens, and a poster of a kitten in sunglasses. Will you regret not buying Captain Underpants? Only time and your next sleepover will tell. At checkout, you count out your change with trembling hands, feeling the unique mix of accomplishment and buyer's remorse known only to book fair participants. You stuff your treasures into the plastic scholastic bag, which immediately rips. Typical. As you leave, your brain still buzzing, you realize you've survived another rite of passage: 1 part literacy, 1 part retail therapy, and 1 part pharmaceutical intervention. The book fair, where reading, retail, and Ritalin collide in a glorious, overwhelming celebration of childhood decision-making, and you walk away a little richer in books, and maybe a little poorer in pocket change. But, for today, completely content. Field trip day. Your parents pack your lunch and your meds. The teacher has a folder thicker than the class hamster, just to keep track of everyone's schedule. The morning is a blur of excitement and logistical panic. You wake up early, stomach fluttering, your mind ping-ponging between visions of dinosaurs at the museum and the eternal mystery of whether your permission slip actually made it out of your backpack and into the teacher's hand. The kitchen is a staging area. Your parent shuffles between sandwich assembly, snack inventory, and the ceremonial placing of the just-in-case pill bottle into a zippered pocket with all the gravity of a Secret Service handoff. You watch as the lunch gets packed. A squished PB&J, a bag of chips, carrot sticks no one will eat, and a juice box. But the true VIP of this lunchbox isn't the pudding cup, it's your medication, placed in a separate, labeled baggie like the crown jewels. You've been instructed to tell your teacher when it's time and not to lose it, trade it, or accidentally launch it into the monkey enclosure. These are not hypothetical concerns. The bus arrives, filled with the nervous energy of 40 kids hopped up on anticipation, fruit snacks, and at least 3 different prescription regimens. You clutch your permission slip, if you remembered it, and board the bus, already mentally rehearsing your emergency contact info just in case you get left behind at the planetarium. On the way, your teacher does roll call for the 4th time, checks the medicine folder for the 6th, and quietly mutters about parental liability. The folder itself is a marvel of the modern era, filled with schedules, allergy charts, and a detailed map of who gets what pill, when, and how. It looks less like a field trip and more like the pre-flight checklist for a space shuttle launch. Arriving at your destination, the class erupts off the bus in a cloud of backpack straps and flapping permission slips. The teacher, now part educator, part pharmacist, does a head count while clutching the folder as if it holds the nuclear codes. Chaperones hover, their pockets bulging with granola bars and emergency contact numbers. Everyone is reminded, again, that snacks must be nut-free, pill times must be strictly observed, and under no circumstances should anyone feed the ducks in the pond their Adderall. The day is a blur of museum exhibits, animal enclosures, and frantic restroom breaks. At medication time, there's a secret summit near the teacher's bench. A handful of kids line up, receive their tablets or chewables, and wash them down with sips of lukewarm water from a shared water bottle. One kid forgets. Another tries to get 2 snacks out of the deal, and a chaperone fumbles with a pocket calendar, trying to remember if extended release means now or after lunch. Snack time is a minefield of dietary restrictions, side effects, and polite reminders from the adults to just try a bite. Someone trades their apple slices for a packet of gummies. You consider swapping your carrot sticks for a look at another group's artifact scavenger hunt answers, but decide it's not worth the risk. Your teacher's folder now contains a separate page for suspected snack trade violations. As the field trip winds down, you feel both exhausted and oddly proud. You manage to keep track of your lunch, your jacket, and your meds. You even remembered your permission slip, eventually. On the ride home, you compare stories with your friends who got lost, who got extra snacks, and who had to see the nurse for precautionary reasons. The teacher's folder is fatter than ever, but everyone made it back. Another successful mission. Logistically, medically, and, in the end, just a little bit magical. School's out, but the pills might not be. Do you go drug-free for summer? Or does the prescription continue at camp? The only thing higher than the temperature is your parents' anxiety. The final bell rings, and you burst through the school doors into 3 months of theoretical freedom. No homework, no math drills, no cafeteria pizza shaped like ambiguous rectangles. For a brief, shimmering moment, the possibilities of summer stretch out in front of you, like an endless driveway of chalk, bikes, and mosquito bites. But even as you toss your backpack into the closet, you sense that this summer, just like every other, comes with a catch. In the kitchen, a meeting of the parental minds is underway. Do they keep you on your medication, or let you take a break? The phrase medication holiday gets thrown around, as if summer vacation means a 2-for-1 deal on beach towels and skipping your morning dose. Your parents consult pediatricians, guidance counselors, and other parents at the pool. No one agrees on the rules, but everyone agrees on one thing. You should probably spend less time watching TV. If you stay on your meds, each day starts the same as the school year. Your parent sets the orange bottle next to your bowl of cereal, and you swallow the pill with your first sip of juice, chased down by a glass of mild guilt. You head outside to play, a slightly calmer version of yourself, organizing your toys and drawing up elaborate rules for backyard capture the flag. Sometimes you notice the difference, sometimes you don't. You just know that on playdates, your mom reminds the other parents, yes, he's on his medication. No, he probably won't eat much lunch. It's normal. But maybe this is the year you go drug-free for summer. The first few days are exhilarating. Your appetite roars back with the vengeance of a snack-deprived wildebeest. You eat popsicles, grilled cheese, leftover birthday cake, sometimes all in the same afternoon. You bounce from activity to activity with the wild-eyed glee of someone finally set loose. For your parents, it's a thrilling, terrifying ride. You are equal parts camp counselor, stunt double, and escape artist. Every room in the house shows evidence of your attention span. Unfinished puzzles, Legos underfoot, a half-constructed fort in the living room that no one is allowed to touch until I remember what I was building. At summer camp, the question of medication is a logistical headache. The camp nurse keeps the pill bottles in a locked box, labeled in thick Sharpie, and there's always a 10-minute scramble before field trips to distribute everyone's medicine with military precision. You see some kids go without, and you wonder what it's like to face canoe races and craft hour with nothing but pure, unfiltered childhood energy. The counselors keep careful notes, and your parents try not to overanalyze every incident report that comes home, even as they compare your snack consumption to last year's. Meanwhile, the Discovery Channel becomes your afternoon refuge. Documentaries about sharks, volcanoes, and animal migrations fill your brain with new obsessions. You decide you want to become a marine biologist, a paleontologist, and a camp director, sometimes all before lunch. You fill your notebook with facts and doodles, imagining yourself as the star of your own adventure show, free from spelling tests and pop quizzes, at least until September. As July blurs into August, your family settles into a new rhythm. Some days are a triumph of routine, others are a glorious mess of lost shoes, skipped snacks, and backyard mayhem. The only constant is your parents' low-level anxiety. Are you eating enough? Sleeping enough? Will you remember anything you learned when school starts again? Summer vacation. A delicate balance between freedom and structure, science and spontaneity, with just enough sunburn and snack wrappers to prove you really were a kid in the 90s. Your parents find a support group. Other adults share stories of hyperactivity, heartbreak, and the logistics of getting a prescription filled at Disney World. The church basement is a familiar battleground, linoleum floors, a half-hearted coffee pot, and a circle of folding chairs that promises both moral support and a deep dive into the world of collective parental worry. Your parents, armed with travel mugs and a list of carefully rehearsed questions, join a gathering of adults who look like they haven't had a good night's sleep since the Clinton administration. Introductions are as predictable as the snack table. Hi, I'm Susan, and my son has been on 5 different medications. Hi, I'm Mark, and my daughter once tried to mail her Ritalin to Santa. The air is thick with a mixture of empathy and humble brag. Everyone has a story, and every story comes with a lesson, a warning, or a punchline. One mother recounts how she once bribed her son with a Happy Meal to take his pill before a long car ride. Another dad admits to hiding medication in applesauce. He still found it. Kids can smell a pill through a brick wall. The conversation inevitably turns to the logistical Olympics of childhood in the pharmaceutical age. Someone's child lost their prescription bottle at summer camp, and the nurse spent half a day searching the woods for one small, orange pill and the reputation of the entire organization. A mum asks, "Does anyone know how to get a refill at Disney World?" Suddenly, 3 hands shoot up. Advice is traded like baseball cards. Go to the first aid station in Tomorrowland. Bring your doctor's number. Never trust Goofy with your insurance card. Soon, talk turns to side effects and snack hacks. A couple exchanges tips for getting kids to eat something, anything, during the notorious appetite slump. Frozen grapes, one suggests. Cheese sticks and chocolate milk, another counters. A quiet dad in the corner confesses he just lets his kid eat goldfish crackers and hopes for the best. The group nods in weary understanding. It's not about winning, it's about surviving until bedtime. There are moments of raw honesty too. Stories of sleepless nights, endless meetings with teachers, and the quiet fear that maybe, just maybe, they're getting it all wrong. One parent admits to Googling every new behavior at 2 a.m., only to be reassured and horrified in equal measure. Another shares the relief of finally meeting a doctor who doesn't suggest just more discipline. There are tears, but mostly there's laughter, the kind that comes from knowing you're not alone in the absurdity. And, as always, the group eventually circles back to paperwork. Refills, insurance forms, school authorization slips that require 3 signatures and a blood oath. Someone offers to photocopy a checklist of what to bring on vacation if your kid is on meds. Everyone pulls out pens, scribbling notes on the backs of old PTO flyers and napkins. Meanwhile, you imagine your parents sitting in that circle, passing the coffee pot, relieved for an hour to speak in complete sentences without interruption. You picture the other kids, just like you, bouncing off couches at home, negotiating snack trades, and wondering why all the adults suddenly know so much about methylphenidate. The support group is both a comfort and a comedy, a place where confusion is a shared language and hope comes in paper cups. As your parents drive home, you sense their mood has shifted. They still worry, but now they're armed with new advice, a phone number or two, and maybe even a funny story to share over dinner. In the end, it's not just the kids who are figuring it out one day at a time, it's the parents too. The parent support group, where caring meets confusion, snacks meet strategy, and everyone leaves a little less alone than when they arrived. Flash forward, you're older now, and the 90s are a punchline on late-night TV. But for you, this was reality, a strange, jittery, snack-filled odyssey through childhood with a chemical twist. You watch as sitcoms and sketch shows lampoon the medicated youth and the hyperactive classroom, all neon scrunchies and Walkman headphones. For most people, it's nostalgia with the edges rounded off, Pizza Day, TGIF, Trapper Keepers, and the miracle of surviving with nothing but dial-up internet and a dream. For you, though, the memories are a little more complicated. There's affection, of course. Who doesn't miss the clack of a fresh mechanical pencil or the thrill of a new book fair poster? But there's also the ghostly shadow of prescription bottles and the quiet routine of nurses' office visits. You scroll past articles declaring your generation overdiagnosed or farmers' favorite children. It's almost funny, until you remember how serious everything felt at the time. Every toe tap, every report card, every question about your potential, all filtered through the lens of focus and medication. You recall filling out endless checklists, the parade of teachers, counselors, and pediatricians, all determined to decode your fidgeting and turn chaos into something productive. Old friends pop up on social media, posting memes about the smell of plastic lunchboxes or the taste of cafeteria pizza. Someone shares a photo of a battered copy of Goosebumps, and you remember spending a week deciding if you were Team Captain Underpants or Team Animorphs. Then you laugh, realizing you were probably both, depending on what your brain chemistry was up to that day. Looking back, you remember the things that didn't make the headlines. You remember the weird solidarity of the nurse's office line, the ritual of trading snacks at lunch, the unspoken bond with the other kids whose pockets rattled with pills. There's regret for the afternoons when your appetite disappeared or your thoughts felt distant, but there's also pride, because every day you learn to adapt, improvise, and occasionally, when no one was looking, rebel in the smallest ways. You became an expert in sneaking apple slices to the class hamster or using bathroom breaks as an escape pod from math class. The world moved on. Attention deficit became a household phrase. Schools phased out some old practices and invented new ones. The medication epidemic faded into the background noise of newer crises. But you carried the experience with you, sometimes as an awkward anecdote at parties, sometimes as a quiet strength. Your parents look back and apologize for what they didn't know, for the expert advice that changed every year, for the uncertainty that came wrapped in every prescription, but you know they were doing their best. Just like the teachers and the school nurse and even the overworked guidance counselor with the hang in there kitten poster, you forgive them and yourself because everyone in the 90s was improvising. No one had the script. You find yourself unusually prepared for adult life's quirks. You can follow instructions and ignore distractions. Or, on your best days, embrace them. You can sit still in meetings, or not, and know it doesn't define you. You have empathy for the restless, the distracted, the ones who don't quite fit the mold, because you never did, and you turned out more than fine. You turned out resilient. Growing up, Ritalin is a cocktail of nostalgia and regret. but mostly it's a testament to making it through. You survived the buzz of cafeteria lights, the endless forms, the pressure to focus, and the jokes about your generation. You grew up, you adapted, and you carried the chaos into a future where it finally makes sense. That's resilience. And if you still crave pudding cups and a nap after lunch, well, that's just proof you never lost your spark. You sit at the kitchen table, staring at another permission slip, this one for medication administration. Your parent hesitates before signing, eyes darting as if the school nurse might burst through the window to check for forged signatures. You wonder if you'll ever need a parent's autograph this much again in your life. The kitchen, normally a site of breakfast negotiations and late-night snack raids, becomes a bureaucratic outpost. The table is strewn with forms. Field trips, book orders, school picture prepayments, and now, this latest gem, an official document authorizing the nurse to give you your daily dose of Ritalin. It's printed in the least reassuring font imaginable and decorated with a cartoon stethoscope, as if that makes the whole thing less intimidating. Your parent reads the form, lips pursed, scanning for traps. I give permission for, and then a paragraph of legalese that might as well be a mortgage application. There's a checklist for dosage times, an emergency contact field, again, and a box to tick in case of unexpected side effects. The instructions urge you to return the form promptly, as if the fate of the entire school depends on a timely parent signature. You take a moment to reflect on just how much power a single piece of paper holds. No field trip, book fair, or extra art class happens without a signed permission slip. But this one feels different. It's not about fun or enrichment. It's about making sure you're allowed to swallow a pill between math and gym under the watchful eye of Mrs. Walling, the school's resident dispenser of ice packs and quiet, knowing nods. There's a ritual to these forms. Your parent fills out your full name, date of birth, and the exact dose. Never just half a pill, but 5 milligram, oral, once at 9:30 a.m. They double-check the spelling. Like getting it wrong might send the school nurse into a bureaucratic frenzy. The pen hovers over the signature line, pausing as if the act of signing is a kind of magical incantation. Finally, they scribble their name in their best official handwriting, slightly more legible than usual, as if anticipating a federal audit. The signed form sits on the table like a tiny, papery passport to the world of institutional trust. Your parent folds it carefully, slides it into your backpack between your homework and a rapidly browning banana, and gives you the sort of instructions usually reserved for international travel. Don't lose this. Don't let anyone see it. Give it to the nurse, not your teacher. And for the love of everything, don't use it as a bookmark for your Goosebumps book. At school, handing over the permission slip is a secret agent operation. You sneak it to the nurse's office, praying it doesn't get crumpled or left in your locker next to that science experiment gone wrong. Mrs. Walling accepts it with a solemn nod, giving you a sticker as a receipt for your troubles. The form is whisked away to a locked cabinet, where it joins hundreds of others, each one an artifact of parental worry, institutional caution, and the modern miracle of keeping track of dozens of medicated children. There's a strange sense of pride in being trusted with this responsibility. You're now part of an exclusive club, kids with paperwork, kids who know that a signature isn't just a formality, but a bridge between home and school, worry and routine. You wonder if one day, signing things will lose its gravity, but for now, each form feels like a rite of passage. At dinner that night, your parent jokes that they've signed more permission slips than paychecks this year. You laugh, but deep down, you know these little rituals are their own form of love, careful, anxious, and a little bit ridiculous. In the world of growing up Ritalin, a parent's signature is both a lifeline and a daily act of faith. Back to school, shopping was supposed to be simple. Just pick out the least embarrassing Trapper Keeper and some Lisa Frank stickers. But now your list includes labeled pill container. You squeeze through the crowded aisle, clutching your new folders and wondering if there's a cool way to accessorize pharmaceuticals. The aisles at the big box store are teeming with families, carts brimming with loose-leaf paper, number 2 pencils, and an alarming variety of neon highlighters. The air smells like plastic, cardboard, and the sharp tang of fresh erasers. You and your parent weave through the crowd, list in hand, ticking off the classics. Notebooks, wide-ruled, never college, glue sticks, safety scissors, and a pack of colored pencils that, by October, will have lost all their reds and blues. You pause for the annual ritual of trapper-keeper selection. The stakes are impossibly high, too babyish, and you risk social exile. Too edgy, and your parent will veto it on sight. You finally settle on one with a cosmic dolphin leaping over a glittering rainbow, safe, stylish, and, with any luck, less likely to be accidentally borrowed. You snag a handful of Lisa Frank stickers as well. Those Technicolor masterpieces that make any folder or lunchbox at least 25 cooler. But this year, the list has a new item, medication storage container, labeled. You spot them in the pharmacy section, wedged between travel shampoo bottles and denture cases. The options are limited and, frankly, uninspiring. A hard plastic case in basic blue, a 7-day pill sorter that makes you feel decades older, or a discreet zip pouch with My Meds emblazoned across the front in Comic Sans. You sigh, wondering if anyone has ever made a pill box that coordinates with rainbow stickers or can be hidden in a pencil pouch without drawing stares. You test out the options. The plastic case is sturdy but bulky, clattering like a maraca with each step. The pill sorter is organized but far too transparent. No one needs to see your entire week of medical compliance. The zip pouch is, admittedly, kind of cool, but you worry it'll get lost in the chaos of your backpack's deepest, crumb-filled pocket. Your parent suggests labeling it with a neon sticker. You imagine decorating it with stars and lightning bolts, transforming it from a boring necessity into an accidental fashion statement. The cashier rings up your haul. 3 spiral notebooks, 1 pack of crayons, an eraser shaped like a taco, and a discreet, possibly over-engineered pill container. You can almost hear your teacher's voice on the first day, reminding everyone about responsible self-care and the importance of not trading your meds for extra pudding cups. Once home, you spread out your supplies on the kitchen table. There's a certain pride in lining everything up. Notebooks, folders, pencil case, and your new personal medication management solution. You try to fit the pill container in your pencil case. No luck. It's relegated to its own special pocket, surrounded by safety scissors and a secret stash of gum you'll deny if asked. You wonder how your classmates will handle their own back-to-school checklists. Will anyone else have a pill container? Should you compare designs or keep it secret? Is there a world where pharmaceutical accessorizing is the next big trend? For now, you settle for a smiley face sticker and a tiny gold star on the lid, your own personal badge of back-to-school resilience. That night, your parent checks the list one more time. Everything's ready. You're officially prepared for another year of spelling tests, pizza day, and the daily reminder to take your meds. School supply shopping in the Ritalin era. 1 part anticipation, 1 part mild panic, and 1 part learning to own your quirks, even if they come in a neon plastic case. Today, your teacher is missing, replaced by a substitute with an air of confusion and a note from the office. In the teacher's lounge, educators gather for medication awareness training, whispering acronyms, dosing charts, and stories of the one kid who hid his Ritalin in his shoe for 3 weeks straight. The day starts like any other, except Mrs. Nellis's seat is empty. and the substitute stands by the chalkboard with the brittle smile of someone thrown into deep water while still holding their shoes. She fumbles with the attendance sheet, mispronounces half the names, and then explains that your regular teacher is at a special training. The class erupts. Some cheer, others whisper wild rumors. Did Mrs. Nellis finally snap during morning announcements? Is she getting a medal for bravery? No one knows. Down the hall, the teacher's lounge buzzes with the energy of a secret society meeting. There are platters of stale muffins, a coffee pot that grumbles with existential dread, and a stack of handouts fresh from the district's medication awareness initiative. Teachers settle into folding chairs, clutching mugs that say things like, "World's best educator and I survived indoor recess." The day's agenda: understanding the growing world of student prescriptions, supporting focus and behavior, and maybe, just maybe, decoding the subtle art of identifying whether a kid's wildness is just post-recess sugar or something deeper. A trainer stands at the front, wielding a binder thick enough to stun a small mammal. She dives into the day's content with the forced cheer of someone who's already done this for 3 other schools this week. "Let's talk about methylphenidate," she says, handing out laminated dosing charts and a list of side effects that reads like a choose-your-own-adventure book gone wrong. The teachers nod, circle symptoms, and exchange knowing glances. Everyone has a story, and now's their chance to tell it. The lounge becomes a whisper network. Do you think Robbie really needs his afternoon dose? Or is it just the full moon? I heard Maddie's doctor switched her to something new. You can tell by the way she color codes her folders now. Someone quietly recounts the legend of the kid who stashed his pills in his Velcro sneaker for a month and then tried to pay for extra pudding with them at lunch. There's laughter, but also a low-level anxiety that maybe, at any moment, someone's going to spring a pop quiz on IEPs. 504 plans and acronyms no one outside of education has ever truly understood. The trainer runs a demonstration, role-play scenarios, empathy exercises, even a matching game, side effects to symptoms, medications to behavioral trends. There's an official medication manual, complete with flowcharts and a section titled, "What to do when a pill goes missing." The room goes quiet at that one, every teacher flashing back to the last time someone came in after recess with pockets full of mystery mints. Meanwhile, back in your classroom, the substitute tries to maintain order, but the day has slipped into delightful anarchy. The lesson plan is ignored in favor of extra recess, a failed attempt at silent reading, and at least one worksheet that ends up as a paper airplane. The class pet is let out for exercise, and the only subject you actually cover is how fast can 30 kids clean up glitter before the principal walks in. At the end of the day, the teachers return from their workshop a little wiser, a little more paranoid, and equipped with enough information to run a small pharmacy. They swap stories, swap strategies, and wonder aloud how anyone taught in the era before the Ritalin revolution. One teacher sighs and mutters, "At least the kids are learning something today, even if it's just how to improvise." Teacher training day in the 90s. Half workshop, half confessional, all part of the strange new world where lesson plans and dosing charts share the same shelf. You're called out of class again, this time to the school psychologist's office. The room smells like stale coffee and unspoken secrets. There's a clipboard, a couch that's somehow both sticky and lumpy, and a bowl of hard candy that looks older than you are. You prepare to answer questions you barely understand. The hallway feels unusually long as you shuffle past trophy cases and faded art projects, clutching a hall pass like a golden ticket. You know the drill. Follow the signs to the student support suite, where the air is thick with whispers and the distant rattle of a file cabinet closing just a little too quickly. You've never been quite sure what goes on in the psychologist's office. only that you return to class feeling vaguely lighter or, sometimes, just more confused. Inside, Dr. Vogel greets you with a smile that's equal parts genuine warmth and the battle fatigue of someone who's spent their morning diffusing a playground feud over who gets to be it. She gestures to the couch. You hesitate. Its pattern was probably fashionable in the Carter administration, and its texture feels like a cross between chewed gum and last year's Play-Doh. You sit gingerly, feet dangling, eyeing the bowl of candy with suspicion and longing. Werther's Originals, root beer barrels, maybe a butterscotch so old it's begun to fossilize. Dr. Vogel sits across from you, clipboard in hand, pen at the ready. There's a comforting hum from a tiny desktop fan and a stack of coloring books on the end table. "So, how are things going?" she asks. Voice soft and steady. You try to translate your swirling thoughts into something she might write down, all while calculating if you can pocket a candy or two without breaking eye contact. She flips through your file, pages thick with teacher notes, parent emails, and maybe a page or two of doodles you swore were confidential. There's a checklist of questions. Do you find it hard to sit still in class? Sometimes. Do you ever feel like your brain is moving faster than everyone else's? All the time, especially during spelling tests and at exactly 2:11 p.m. Are you sleeping well? You remember last night's vivid dream about being chased by a math worksheet and just nod, non-committally. The questions keep coming. About friends, school, your mood, how you feel after taking your medicine, whether the lunchroom is too loud, and if you know what impulse control means. You wonder if impulse control is what stops you from grabbing all the candy at once, or if it's the reason you sometimes answer questions before the teacher even finishes asking them. Dr. Vogel listens, jots notes, occasionally nods. Every so often she tosses out a curveball. If you could change one thing about your school day, what would it be? You consider your options? Longer recess? Shorter math? A ban on word problems? And settle for less sitting? More snacks. She laughs, writes it down, and you feel like you've won a round in a game you didn't know you were playing. Before you leave, Dr. Vogel offers the bowl of candy. You take a piece, not daring to be greedy, and it tastes faintly of nostalgia and a hint of musty carpet. She reminds you her door is always open, which you suspect is both an invitation and a gentle warning. You walk back to class, clutching your candy, feeling seen and maybe a little less peculiar. The world outside the psychologist's office seems brighter, the day less overwhelming. Maybe next time you'll ask for 2 candies, or at least a different flavor. The school psychologist, part listener, part detective, part candy supplier. Her office is where clipboards, couch time, and childhood confusion collide in the ongoing quest to make sense of growing up. One sticky seat and one honest answer at a time. It's report card day. You unfold the trifold paper, heart pounding, to see a row of check marks and an ominous comment. Shows improvement with medication. Your parent sighs with relief. You wonder if you're being graded on chemistry or character, and somewhere, the guidance counselor updates her chart. The day begins with a low hum of anxiety. Everyone in class knows what's coming. The teacher's desk is stacked with manila envelopes, and the rumor mill is in overdrive. Who will get straight A's? Who will get a talking to at dinner? Whose parent will schedule a follow-up meeting before even leaving the parking lot? You pretend to focus on morning math, but your mind is tallying every time you forgot your homework, every bathroom break that lasted suspiciously long, and the time you called your teacher mom by accident during roll call. When the envelopes are finally handed out, your hands are suddenly clammy, your pencil feels heavier, and even your seat feels a little too small. There's a silent agreement. Open the envelope in private, under your desk, as if it might contain a secret code, or, worse, a letter home. You unfold the thick paper, eyes darting to the most important part, not the grades, but the comments section. The grades are fine, solid, mostly satisfactory. A couple of needs improvement sprinkled in for flavor. But the comments are where the real story is told. Shows improvement with medication. The phrase sits heavy on the page. Not brilliant at math, not creative thinker, not even tries hard. It's a quiet reminder that your progress is being measured by more than just the spelling list or the multiplication tables. You wonder for a second if your classmates' report cards mention their after-school activities, their sparkling personalities, or just how well they sit still. At home, your parent examines the report card with a practiced blend of hope and dread. They linger on the comment, reading it twice, as if it might morph into something more reassuring. There's relief in their sigh, a weight temporarily lifted. You both know this is as much about them as it is about you. Every check mark, every satisfactory, is proof that the meetings, the pills, the forms, and the constant reminders weren't for nothing. Over dinner, the conversation is a careful dance. "I'm proud of you," your parent says. And the teacher's proud, too. You nod, chewing your pasta. Not sure how to feel about being a group project between your brain, your family, and a small orange pill. There's praise, but also a new round of questions. Do you feel good about school? Are you happy? Are the pills helping? Or do they just make you less hungry at snack time? Elsewhere, the school's inner machinery whirs. The guidance counselor updates her ever-growing spreadsheet, color-coding students by improvement, intervention, and maybe snack preference. Teachers prepare notes for next year, highlighting which students will need extra support, which will thrive with a little encouragement, and which just need a reminder to keep their shoes tied. As the school year winds down, the anxiety fades and nostalgia creeps in. You and your friends compare report cards, comparing every checkmark and needs improvement, like baseball stats. Someone points out that no matter what the comment says, summer vacation is just around the corner, and that's worth celebrating. In the end, report card day is less about the grades and more about surviving another year of growing up in the age of attention. Achievement, apprehension, and a healthy dose of attention to detail, all wrapped in a tri-fold envelope. You tuck it away, already planning how to make next year's comments a little more about you and a little less about the medicine. So, as you drift off tonight, maybe curled up under a weighted blanket, a bottle of water on the nightstand, and the comforting glow of a phone screen just within reach, think back to the wild, jittery halls of 1990s American schools. You made it through a place where focus was measured in milligrams, lunchrooms felt like pharmaceutical trade shows, and the only thing more confusing than standardized tests were the side effects on the permission slip. Remember how every day was an adventure. From the nurse's office, where you were handed a tiny tablet like a golden ticket, to the guidance counselor's chair, where your deepest childhood secrets were traded for a smiley face sticker and maybe a grape Jolly Rancher. You survived class photo day with a forced grin, book fair week with trembling hands, and gym class with enough adrenaline to power a small generator. You learned to navigate a world where attention was a commodity, distraction was a diagnosis, and even your lunchbox had to be medication compatible. Somehow, you, your friends, your teachers, and your perpetually exhausted parents made it through one signature, one pillbox, one glittering Lisa Frank folder at a time. So tonight, as you tuck in and the noise of the day finally settles, be grateful for the little things. For focus that isn't measured by a stopwatch. For sleep that doesn't require a prescription. For the fact that if you're restless now, it probably just means you need to turn the pillow over to the cool side. Because history might be weird, and sometimes a little heartbreaking. But it's also proof that people are resilient, resourceful, and just a little bit ridiculous. Good night, and may your dreams be peaceful, your memories soft, and your next morning utterly prescription-free.